G'day guys, welcome to the SuperCoach Draft Christmas special featuring myself and two guys I've been waiting a very, very long time to get in studio to get on camera. Now that I've got them on camera, I understand why I didn't for so fucking long. The weekly rubdown, if you're not following them on your social medias, on your podcast, make sure you go and join them. Natty, Wook, I don't know who to hand to first. Who's in charge of this shit show?
I'll go first, mate. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having us on here. This is very fancy. So thanks for coming. I feel like a truffle pig. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my hands. What do I do? No,
I'll make it sound like it's my place. But
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'm just a hoarder that never left, essentially.
Yeah, no, good on you.
Wook, welcome, mate. What's doing?
It's been good. It's look, it's great to be caught up in the big leagues. Being face on camera is probably not the best for everyone watching, but look, we're gonna fucking rip of a go.
Yeah, and obviously the boys have been doing SuperCoach Draft content for years now. When did you start?
Oh, it was back in 2017, wasn't it? Or 2016, maybe.
It might have been earlier than that. Yeah, maybe 6 years been doing it.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah, for sure. Just started it as a bit of a laugh, really. And I remember 10 people listening to us, and we're just rubbing our dicks over it, just going,
How good is this? We've got 10 people who are taking time out of the day to listen to us babble bullshit.
Yeah.
And boys, obviously, so many people play Classic in Australia, and it's weird because everywhere else in the world, when you're talking fantasy sports, draft is the dominant way to go by far and away. So it is a little bit backwards in SuperCoach, but mate, how good is it to see every year draft is building? And if you are watching and you are a Classic player, get 2, get 5, get 10 mates together. Draft, you will never fucking look back.
Yeah, 100%.
It adds a number of dimensions to the game. It's not like you're just looking at break evens. You're not looking at certain other things. No, there's a whole other layer of strategy that goes into it, and it's so much more fun.
And I don't like that sort of like draft versus Classic thing. You should be playing both.
Oh, it's a shit chat.
Yeah. You should be playing both. Like if you're a Classic guy or girl, and you've never given it a go, or if you don't have enough mates to make a league, DM us, get involved. We'll put you with other like-minded people to give draft a go. It should be that you play both. You don't have to pick a side.
There is nothing more that I hate than when you see content creators and people who pretend it's like a fucking war between the two.
There's a place for both, and I get it. Classic is good because you don't need to track down blokes. You can play it solo. You're playing for money. It's a gamble. You're playing for big bucks. I get that. I'm a degenerate gambler. I know where you're coming from. But then on the other side of the coin, you got draft where you can have 8, 10, 12, 14 mates, and you can build something, you can have trips away like we do, draft challenge days, the bands are on WhatsApp. There is a place for both.
And I think especially like with me and my mates as we get older and kids and everything come into the picture, it's what keeps us all together.
100%. That's exactly why I made the league, is to keep boys together and have an excuse to go away for a couple of days with the boys and just get on it.
All of our wives, girlfriends, partners all know that at the end of February, there's just this weekend. It's a black hole.
Yeah.
None of us
Every
exist
year.
for those 3 days, no matter what. Don't care what's happening.
100.
And part of our league's up in Queensland, part of our league's down in Sydney. So the trip away for draft challenges and the draft day itself is just unreal.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And the Triple A, obviously, that's for draft day. So what both of our comps do, we're in 2 different comps. The boys are in the same one. I've got my own home league with my mates. Both comps go away together for a weekend, week, whatever it might be. The boys do their draft challenges on the Saturday or the Friday or whatever. Then they have your draft day on the Sunday. Mine previously has been all on the same day. So you wake up, you do challenges, you find out your order, which means you've got about an hour until you turn around and then you start.
That's ludicrous. That's madness.
Love it. Absolutely love the pressure cooker. We've done it different this year. I actually liked how we did it this year. We did it, the order was decided. We had a sweeps for Melbourne Cup.
Yep.
And it went in that order. And guess who got first place?
Nice.
Jack
Georgie Rose coming in number 1.
Bang.
How good.
Bang.
Very, very exciting. What does your draft day look like this year?
Yeah, it's big. So we've got a house down in Crescent Head. So sort of halfway between Wook and the boys up north with me. So Friday through to Monday, get there Friday, drink, catch up, have a laugh. Saturday's the challenge day. And we've got things like, it'll start off with dropout. So everyone has one dropout furthest distance. You know, the longest dropout will get 12 points, the shortest will get 1 point, and it just goes on through the day.
It's a bad day for a hamstring.
It's a bad day for a beer as well. Fucking hell.
Passing challenges, grubber challenges. We've got marble races. What else have we got? Just heaps of shit. Mario Kart this year. The Mario Kart challenge.
Gambling bit.
Gambling.
$20, you got to turn it into whatever you can.
Beer pong. Just a full day of debauchery. And then my old man is in the comp. Shout out to Big Al.
We've got a Big Al in our comp too. Yeah, he won it last year.
And so he doesn't drink that much, so he's the timekeeper, he's the challenge keeper. He puts the points in. That way there's no arguments about, oh, no, I should have got this. It's like whatever Big Al says is fucking what goes. And we wake up Sunday, you've got your rank where you're picking, and then we draft.
I think we need someone like Big Al in our comp. We had one of our challenges last year was a paper aeroplane thing. Everyone had 3 minutes to make a CO with it. And
I love that.
Someone slipped a rock into theirs.
What?
And just scrunched it up through it. So there's a bit of controversy there. Always is on draft day. Yeah. I love the petty arguments that end up happening. Now, guys, let's talk about your comp itself. How many people are in it, and what's the structure of your teams?
Yeah, so we've got 12, and so we've recently gone up to 12. And because we went from 10 to 12, we wanted to keep the same sort of waiver wire action throughout the year. Yeah. So we dropped down the number of players on your team. So your team makeup.
Your starting team, it went from 13 down to
10. I've heard of the cowardish approach. Yeah.
So we got 10 run on, 4 on the bench. And look, it was a bit of a trial because some of the boys are like, nah, fuck that. We want to keep it the same. But I think all the boys are on board that because of the action throughout the year, we've kept it the same again. And even with the buys, we've decided to keep it the same. We had a vote whether we add more on the bench or whether we keep it the same, and everyone sort of voted for chaos.
Play through the chaos.
Oh, I think you're better off going with don't fix it till it's broken.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even if it is broken, it's not going to be a train wreck.
Yeah,
realistically.
You got to give it a crack.
Yeah, for sure. And in your comp, so explain to me how many hookers, front row forwards, second row, how does it work if you've got the 10?
So we've got the one hooker, we've got 2 front row forwards, we've dropped down to 2 RFs, we've got both the halves, and then we've dropped down from 4 CTWs to 2, and then we've obviously got the fullback. So still got the 4-man bench.
And then four reserves?
4 reserves, yeah. So that's going to be a bit of chaos when it comes to buys, as we know every week. Team's going to have a bye, and it's going to be a bit chaotic.
Yeah, the biggest one is the CTWs.
100%.
Having 2 CTWs is fucking madness. Trying to work out who you're playing every week, who you're starting, who you're picking up off waivers. Because the thing is, there's decent CTWs in the waiver all the time.
Yeah.
And you just don't know who to keep in your side. And it's wild. It's good. It's good fun.
It sounds like one of the great luxuries of all time. Because my comp is 1 hooker, 2 front row forwards, 3 2RFs, halfback 5'8", then we've got 4 CTWs. So, as you guys said, there's always someone good on the waiver. There's never fucking someone good on the waiver. It is unbelievably hard. Then 1 fullback, then we've got 4 reserves. We tinkered with going to 5 reserves. I think we're the same as you guys. We're going to keep it and see what happens. And your reserves, obviously, incredibly fucking important.
Yeah,
work out
Jules.
Pretty much.
Yeah, Jules and a couple of flyers at the back end.
Well, you got to have a few punts on guys like Ezra Mams and stuff like that are going to have that breakthrough season.
And mate, when you do pick one of those flyers, good God, it's game changing.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely fucking game changing.
100%.
And we've got quite a few to talk about. We won't talk about them today, but I'm sure in the preseason. Got a couple of black bookers. I know mine's pretty fucking full just quietly. I'm looking forward to this season.
So many could be anything.
There's a couple of could be anything. We're calling February the could be anything cup this year, so cannot wait for that to come around.
Well done. You saved that up. You've been practicing that in the mirror.
Thanks, mate. Thanks.
Very well done.
Now, positional wise, we already spoke about what both of our comps look like. What's your guys' game plan this year as far as positions? I know that, I'm in a pretty... I'm in a very lucky situation where I know I've got pick number 1 this year, so Nathan Cleary's my pick, so that takes halfback out of the equation. Yep. I think this year, hooker, halfback, 5'8", fullback.
Yep.
It's going to be fucked.
Yep.
I'm so stoked I've got a halfback sorted. Yep. And then, as you said before, your duels, I think, in those positions. If you can find a 5'8" fullback or one of those guys, like Nico Hines was last year, Ezra Mam, these sort of guys are going to be so important. A few guys have lost it. Scott Drinkwaters, etc. It's going to be tough. What's your strategy as far as positions heading into 2023?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with a halfback. You kind of got to get that out really early. But yeah, fullback, a top-tier fullback is essential, I reckon. And we were talking about it before. Your TRF, a high-quality TRF early on is important. Hooker, I think, is just going to be a basket case. If you manage to jag like Grant or Cook in your first 2 rounds, you're okay. Outside of that, it's going to be a bit of a shit fight because you've got Marnie, who's changed clubs. We don't necessarily know how he's going to play, whether he's just going to be a tackling machine, whether he is going to show a bit of the attacking flair that we know that he has from Rezzies and stuff.
If he's going to play 80.
Whether he's going to play 80, because they do have Bindi in there, and he's an absolute gun off the bench. So, look, there's a number of question marks there. Then you got Appy, who's come across. Like, is he going to take more of a responsibility for attack because, like, he wasn't needed for attack in Panthers? So many questions, and I don't know whether I'd be willing to throw a second round pick on that.
Yeah, and I think with Hooker, I think every year Hooker gets harder every single year. I think over the next few years, I mean, if you have a look at 2022, the team that won the comp, the Penrith Panthers, ran with 2 hookers.
Yeah.
Both Origin teams ran with 2 hookers. Kangaroos that won the World Cup ran with 2 hookers.
Well, answer me this. So obviously we're talking about Cook and Grant being the top tier hookers, right, that you would take in your draft. Do they have the upside that you would pick them in round 2? No.
You're picking them because they're hookers.
No. So let someone else take them.
Yep.
Let Hooker slide.
What hooker is currently running around can easily have a ceiling above 100?
No, doesn't exist.
There isn't.
And people would say Grant, but it's not true. I love Grant. I love him to bits, but he's not that guy.
Grant's ceiling is about 100. He'll get 80s and 90s for days, but yeah, his ceiling is 100.
Yeah. And I think that this is probably one thing I've learned over the years that I will die on this hill. Pick a position in your spine every year and go, fuck it.
Yep.
I'm not going to bother. Yep. So my position last year was hooker, didn't bother with it. Got to the last round. I managed to get Jeremy Marshall-King, average 55, 60.
And do it again.
And I think if you were able to get him this season, being up at the Dolphins, I think that's a great
I'd be
pickup.
stoked.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be a bit concerned with having Nico on the bench, but far out. Like, I think there's a lot to offer with the a lot of value to be had with Dolphins setup.
I think there is too. Yeah.
I've got the same view with hooker that I do with front row forward. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, like, obviously I'm going to keep an eye on it. Value's value. If it comes up, a guy pops up and I go, shit, that's great value, I'll jump. But I'm going to leave them because I just don't see the value early on in your draft with hooker and front row forward. Fullback is your number one go, right? So in your top 20 average scorers from last year, excluding the guys that played less than 13 games, fullbacks accounted for 50%.
And that's not including Turbo, of course, too.
No, it isn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's huge.
Is that including Pappy? Pappy, did he make it? Right?
Yeah,
he just made it.
Just snuck in.
And so you had six fullbacks to average over 70 in that list as well.
Yeah,
so
wow.
you got to get your first 2 picks. You got to get a high end fullback, and it's going to be even harder this year because you're going to have blokes like Val Holmes, who is in this list, that are going to drop DPP, right?
Yep.
So it's going to be even harder. So especially if you're that top end of your picks, so picks 1 to 6, get a fullback. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I assume in that list that would include Val Holmes and Joey Manu, both of them.
Both of them,
Yes.
And I think there will be others to follow, just based on how they're doing it at the moment and how they've taken guys. I think there will be more fullbacks to fall, realistically.
Yeah, which is scary.
Yeah, terrifying.
Because you need one. And so you take those guys out that had that DPP, then, it gets a little bit worrying.
Yeah, because there's no doubt about the fullback position. It is a point-scoring position.
Oh, it's the Ferrari.
It's where you collect your most
dick.
points on attacking plays. You got kick returns. It has everything there. Halfback 5'8".
Scary.
Thank fuck for me, it's not.
Yeah.
I can just go give a fuck. Who cares?
And look, if you're up the top like you are, and you've got the luxury of picking Cleary or Hines, bada bing, bada boom. Dust your hands of it. You're sweet. After that, it gets like, obviously in your first sort of 3-4 rounds you want to get one.
Yeah.
5'8's tough. 5'8's
brutal.
5'8 is brutal. It's up there with hooker, I reckon.
Yeah.
With how difficult the position is, because really, looking at the numbers, there's only 3 in the top 20, and then there's only 4 in the top 50.
And this is where I think if you're not getting one of those 3 or 4, I don't think you reach. I think you're better off going to get a good 2RF.
100%.
There.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think with your first sort of 1 to 3 picks, you want a fullback and or halfback 5'8".
Yeah.
So if you walk away after your first 3 picks and you've got a fullback and a halfback or a fullback and a 5'8", I think you've started really well. After that, it's time to start targeting a couple of really nice, sexy strike 2RFs.
Yeah.
And this is some of the numbers that really surprised Walker and I. 38% of the top 50 is 2RFs.
Wow.
Yeah. And it just goes to show, like, you can't understate how important getting at least one strike 2RF is.
Yeah.
Because your lanes, your Isaiah Papali'is, like, they will win you comps. Like, you need your Ferrari, obviously, with the fullback, but you need one player to start to build up those numbers each week.
Especially now, because I think we're in the era where front row forwards, they're all 50.
Yeah.
Like there are a couple of guys that can go above that, but you're going to have to pay an arm and a leg.
What a shit show front row forward was last year. Like, I underestimated how bad it was going to be. Like, it was just to get a guy that was going to get you 48 points week in, week out was a struggle.
Yeah. There was about a 5-week period where Tom Burgess was out with a mystery groin or something, and mate, I was heartbroken every Tuesday. Yeah. And I'm going, why the fuck do I care so much about Tom Burgess? Yeah. But he was with how deep my comp was, as you guys can imagine. Having a guy like him was fucking gold in the front row. It was, and that's like what I did last year. I didn't pick a hooker or a front rower until round, I think it was 15. And just went from there onwards. And all I didn't win the comp, obviously, but it all turned out okay. But I think they are 2 positions, front row forward in particular. Leave.
Oh,
right?
man. If you can get 2 blokes that get you 45 every week and you pick them late in your draft, and it's very doable because there's a gaggle of blokes that can get you 45. If you do that and you do that late in your draft, that's the way to do it.
And if you can jag one of those, like, dream jewels, the 2RF front row forward, like an Isaiah Papali'i of last season, I mean, he's lost it this season, and that's huge. That's huge because he is a set and forget in your front row forwards. Then you can target another 60 average to have to that spot. So
the dropping of jewels for 2023 is going to be mayhem.
It's brutal
because it's the one year that we need more.
Yeah, exactly.
We need more dual position players, and they're going to strip so many blokes, and it's just going to fucking be madness.
And I think, obviously along with who you just mentioned there, Isaiah Papali'i, you got Taumalolo as well. Like, these are 2 guys in the top 40 that aren't going to get a bait. Ruben Cotter, he's lost 2RF as well.
Yeah,
he's solely hooker.
Huge.
It's going to be a brutally tough year. And I mean, we've already sort of tiptoed around it, but my biggest advice to people would be with hooker, halfback, 5'8", fullback. Probably not so much fullback, probably the other ones. If you can't get one of those top tier guys,
don't stress.
Just let it fucking go.
Don't stress.
Let it go. Because at the end of the day, you'll use a round 2, round 3 pick on getting a halfback just because he's a halfback.
Yeah.
And you can get someone that isn't great at Supercoach.
Yep.
And Ilias 10 rounds later, who he's not in that league. He's only 10 or 15 points away.
Yeah.
And what are you filling those positions with?
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you've lost that 15 average or whatever it is, but what have you used those picks to gain in your team?
And I think the other thing that people sleep on with halfback 5'8" is that when a player goes down, injured, suspended, most of the time you know who's going to come in and you know who's going to play 80. Yeah. Back rower goes down. You don't know if players are going to come in and play 80. You don't know if you're going to have a safe guy come in. As a guy, like if you were to grab, keep a Jock Madden on your bench, eventually at some point he's going to be a halfback or a 5'8". You're waiting for something to happen. Guys that had Tom Starling last year, I know it didn't work out perfectly.
Yep.
But I think with your key spine positions, you can be a little bit patient and you can get guys that come good. I held on to Scott Drinkwater for the first 6 weeks last year, 7 weeks.
Amazing.
Everyone said drop.
What a home run.
Just wait, and turned out to be one of. Is he one of the guys in your top 20 averages or whatever? Yeah.
Look, I tell you what, Tom Starling is a bit of a trigger word for me because fucking hell, I was all.
You wouldn't be the only one out there.
I was all about him at the start of last season. I was like he's all he is one injury
Still
away.
Got his dick in your mouth.
I know. But he's like he was one injury away, and we knew that there was a bit of an injury history with Josh Hodgson, and I was like, you just keep him on your bench and you'll be sweet. No one saw that from the clouds, Zach Wolford would come in and just be the starting hooker. There was no chance of that happening. So that burned me in 2 leagues. So
it was unbelievable with Starling, like in the preseason. I remember us having this conversation, and I didn't have the balls to draft him, but I remember hearing your logic and going, "Yeah, I backed that."
Yeah.
He needed all these things to go his way for him to be relevant. All those things went his way,
Yeah.
and then fuck all.
And then it's still
It's one of the great kicks in the dick of all time. Zach Wolford comes from 3rd grade playing East Rugby.
Yeah.
And becomes starting hooker.
Unbelievable.
Unreal.
Yeah, from the
Crazy.
clouds.
Oh.
From the absolute clouds. But going back to the strategy.
Now that we're done with the little walk tantrum.
And
Yeah, sorry, mate.
and me bringing you two back in. The sensible one. Okay. So, like you were saying, don't stress out if you don't get one of those big guys, halfback 5'8". And we say this every year. One of our favourite quotes for draft is from Bruce Lee, "Be like water. You know, be formless, be shapeless." You know, if the draft goes down a certain way and guys are really targeting halfbacks, shift.
Yeah.
There's going to be some sort of value somewhere else. Don't get sucked in and start reaching for halfback and 5'8s just because all the best ones are going.
And that's why you
Cut that up, Matty.
You pump your pre-draft lists. So if shit happens, you can move. You can shift, you can dodge, you can duck, you can dive.
Keep your head on a fucking swivel.
You need to be very, very mobile in this, because with all these buys, it's changed how you should be drafting. You can't be lumping all your eggs in one basket with a single team, because in fact, there'll be 3 weeks of the year where you're not going to have half of your team on the field. So you've got to be thinking about a bit of depth, a bit of structure, and a bit of foresight with who you're bringing in.
Boys, I feel like I've just seen the apex moment of the weekly rubdown on video format. I feel like you've been building up to that with your Bruce Lees for about 4 or 5 years. I fucking love that.
Every year we say the Bruce Lee quote, and it works every year. It's like, because you see,
accurate as hell.
and you see it in every league that you're a part of. You see the draft happening, and it could be any position, fullback, 2RF, halfback, 5. It just starts going, and everyone starts going, fuck, I wanted Angus Crichton. Who else? What's another 2RF I fucking need? And then 6 or 7 2RFs go. And if you've got your fucking finger on the pulse, you just go, okay, what else is happening here?
The thing that triggered us was one year we had 4 or 5 hookers go in succession.
Wow.
And
God, I love sitting back watching a rush.
I saw that.
Put your feet up.
Saw this happen, and I was like, when the first 2 went, I was like, oh shit. And then I started to look at who was left, and I was like, oh, everyone's going to leave it. And then like you were getting, this is way back when Moses and Bai and a few others are getting picked up, and I'm like, fuck. All right, now they're starting to get a bit of value.
I love on draft day when you're sitting in the same room and you watch guys and you see a pick go that's a hooker, and then you hear the next person go, oh, and you know, oh, here we go. Here comes a bed shit.
It's the classic thing where just say Wooker's ahead of me and he picks the player that I want. The worst thing I can do is go and pick the next best player in that position just because he got that player in that position. And it happens every fucking year. Yeah. Just, you got fucking 60 seconds, collect yourself, have a look, who else is there?
But the good thing is with the pre-draft list, like your picks are there. And you can just go, oh, well, I'm not going to pick him. And you can have a bit of a think around, oh, I've already got 3 roosters. I'm pretty sure I need to pump the brakes on that. I can't.
Bro, we harp on about this every year, and every year it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every year it happens.
It's great to see, though. Great to see.
Yeah, I like it happening in the leagues that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
I think people sleep on how long that 60 seconds, minute is. You got so much fucking time.
Oh, when you freak out for 45 seconds, it doesn't leave you long to pick, does it?
Yeah.
Just
I have to
calm
admit,
yourself.
One of my leagues is 30 seconds.
That's
and
madness.
It almost takes that much time for the page to load.
Yeah.
That's a league of psychopaths right there.
Having your pre-draft list is fucking important, because I think I drafted 2 auto drafts last year because of how quick the turnaround was.
I have no sympathy for
60
you.
seconds.
Why the fuck would you?
60 seconds.
No.
Yeah. Ask Mrs. Guru. You can get a lot done in 60 seconds. All right, let's move to buy planning.
What a start.
New ball game here.
Yeah, huge.
Out the window. This is a new way of doing it.
And I think I don't know about you boys, but I'm more than comfortable to say off the top, I'm not exactly sure what's the best way to go about this. I think we'll have a better idea at the end of the season.
A lot of it has to do with like the players in your league.
Yep.
Whether they're open to trading, whether you think it's just a shut up shop sort of situation. If that's the case, you have to be building up your team based on what you want in the finals.
And this is the big thing in my comp. We might, if we have 6 trades in a year, that's huge. We have very few trades. If the overs unders was 5, I'd take unders every single year. So for me, I straight away know that South Sydney, Parramatta, they've got the bye in round 27. That's my grand final week. Parramatta players are just about off the table for me. South Sydney players, prelim final, you've got to win that to make the grand final. Pretty much off the table for me as well. Where are you guys sitting as far as buys?
Well, on the flip side, like, because your final is in round 27, it was off the table. Our final will be in round 26.
Yeah.
So Eels only playing 2 buys and not having a buy in the finals, pretty fucking appealing.
Yeah, very appealing.
Very appealing. There's other elements to it, like losing Marnie, gaining Hodgson. There's like loss of team structure.
More to the point, though, if you can convince the village idiot in your draft comp that your grand final is round 27.
Yeah, that's always
Swoop on some Eels magic.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
And honestly, it's easier than you think.
Which, knowing some of the village idiots.
Yeah, because no one actually checks settings. They just go off what the commissioner says. And as soon as I'm commissioner, I say whatever the fuck I want, and they'll believe it.
Oh God, every year this happens.
I tell you what's a really good measuring stick. Latrell Mitchell. So Latrell Mitchell, obviously from last year's performances, you'd say he's a pick 1 to 4 in round 1.
Yep.
He was a beast. He was a fucking
Matty would
beast.
take him pick 0 if he could. But proceed.
Automatic, straight in your team, Matty. But you've also got... So Bunnies have no bye until round 16. Bunnies have the 9th best strength of schedule from round 1 to 8. Latrell has the 5th best strength of schedule from round 1 to 8, but they don't play round 26. They have a bye in round 26. So if your grand final, like us, is in round 26, you've got a real conundrum on your hands when it comes to Latrell Mitchell, right? Yep. Do you want a quick start? Do you want to get runs on the board? Do you want to get 2 points week in, week out, build yourself up, come round 8, 9, 10, you're sitting pretty, maybe 1, 2 or 3 on the ladder, which I think is really important this year with all the buys, or are you going to, with your draft, plan for finals? And if that's the case, you would let Latrell pass you by.
Yeah.
So in a perfect world, you would pick up Latrell, he would kill it, and then you would trade him high before his buys and before the rep season. But
if you can't get a trade,
what fucking league does that happen in? It's hard.
Yeah. And he's a guy you know will play Origin. He's obviously going to have the buy as well. So I think a lot of people would go in with the mindset of Latrell, start fast, then sell.
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you going to sell
I think
to?
there's going to be value with Latrell in most drafts because of that round 26 buy. And I don't think, like, if I was pick 7, 8 and Latrell slipped to me, I think that makes the decision for me.
Yeah, and I think that at the end of the day, Latrell, he might not play your grand final, but there's every chance that other guns won't either anyway.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
There's every chance
100%.
that
Well,
you
round
clear
27, round 27 and 26, you got alternating teams like probably just having a bit of a rest.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of where if you can get your gun to play their bye round 22 to round 25.
I was just about to say this.
It sits very nicely.
Because
but,
you know he's not going to be rested.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at round 20 though, talking heavily off the dome here, Penrith, Roosters, Melbourne, Manly have got a bye, I believe. Well, can you double check that? I'm pretty confident that's on the money though. So that's obviously your Turbo, your Munsters, your Grants, your Clearys. All those guys have got to buy that week. Now, that's still 7 weeks away from round 27, though. So is that enough time?
Well, you would think so. If you get a rest in
It's
round
2 months,
20.
though.
Yeah, when
right.
you talk about it like that, it is.
It's 2 months.
And
Like, it's a
where
long time.
And it depends where they are on the ladder as well.
Yes.
So, you know, if they're cemented in their position and they don't need to win that last round, why would you?
Yeah,
And that's where I think we've been talking on Bloke and a Bar the last few weeks, going through each team and talking about where we think they'll finish. It's going to be such a close comp this year.
Fuck.
I think it could really...
Especially that top 8, top 9.
Yeah, and like as a Nathan Cleary owner, I'm sitting here going, I know Cleary's going to do well. Losing Appy and Kickow, hopefully that just brings them back to fighting for a minor premiership
for
or
sure.
second and third, and that's sort of what I think there's a very good chance that we're going to come down to the last round. Not only are teams playing for top 8 spots or top 4 spots, they're playing for home finals.
I totally agree.
So I like this season from that perspective.
Yep.
So round 19 is Broncos, Cowboys, Knights, Panthers, Roosters, Manly, Storm. That's
Fuck,
round.
he's good at what he does.
That's round 19. Round 20 is then South Canberra Dragons.
Yeah,
That's a tough one.
Interesting.
So, and like Walker said at the start of the podcast, so Eels for us is really good because they don't have a bye till round 13, and they have a bye in round 27, which is after our season because our grand finals around 26. So they're actually a perfect team to target.
Yeah. Well, you've got Eels, Broncos, Cows, and Bunnies all not having a bye at all in the first 13 rounds. But on the flip side, round 24, 25, 26, 27, they'll have alternating buys.
And I think this is where, if you're not complete and utter Supercoach fucking nerds like us, and you are a bit more of a mid-ranger, they're the guys you should be looking at. If you're like my focus is to win a comp every year. Other guys would be, I just want to make finals, get in on the banter and whatnot, and not be at the bottom, avoid a spoon, those sort of areas. Shout out to half my comp. They're the sort of guys you could be looking at those first 13 weeks with those smooth runs.
I'm actually, for the first time in me playing Supercoach, I'm actually really interested in starting the year strong. And I was saying to you earlier about like this year, especially with the buys, rep round, injuries just seem to be happening more often to these higher end players as well. Like if you start slow and you're on the bottom end of the table and then you come into buys and come into rep season and then get an injury, your season's over.
Yeah.
I think your season's over already by the sounds of it. Thinking about the first 10 fucking weeks. Rattled early. I've never heard this before.
Please.
How did last season end up, by the way?
Ask Walker. How'd you go, bud?
I lost.
Two losers.
There were no
Three losers.
There were no winners at this table.
I made the grand final.
What happened to you in the grand final?
Yeah, I captain Ben Hunt.
It's the
week he was on, what is it, -4 at halftime? I was pumped about that. It was good. Let's move on. What do we got next?
That was a really good shout
Top
out
10
too
picks.
that you
Let's
had
get
for
it. Let's move on.
Now, I thought before we does that cover us in buys? Is there anything else?
Well, I think on the flip side, so we're talking about teams that didn't have the bye in the first 13 rounds. We've got teams like the Storm, Roosters, Titans, Panthers, and Sharks. 4 of those are very relevant teams. They have 2 buys in the first 13 rounds. Okay. So that could really give you a bit of a problem at the start of the season to get yourself on a good front. So people who have drafted players from there, they're going to be good trade targets, coming out of the back end of that round 13 because they're going to need wins. So if you're willing to cop a buy for one of those players, you could get some value if you're in a trading league.
That's more so my line of thinking. I'm looking at buys as I don't want the guys that have a buy in the last 2 weeks of my season. Yeah. But other than that, I really don't give a fuck. I don't care. It's 1 week out of 23.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was talking to Natty and his old man, Big Al, shout out. If he has a player who doesn't perform for a few weeks, he gets the shits. Looks to either drop them or trade them out. So there's a couple of those players in every league who get the shits, and if they know that a player's having a buy coming up, if you're willing to cop that 0, jump in, grab it, take the loss.
The good thing about our comp is you don't have any guys that throw tantrums. Shout out to them. Don't know who they are.
What's your thoughts on the Roosters for 2023, Guru?
Really like them.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at, they've obviously got 2 buys in the first up until round 13, right? So you're going to ride that wave. But they also have the second best strength of schedule that we've got from 23 to 26.
See, for them, as long as their buys aren't the last 2 weeks, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less.
They're sitting pretty. And they're obviously going to be a better team.
I normally start my season with 2 or 3 injured players in my. As you guys know, it's one of my strategies every year that I just plan for the back end, and this year will be no different.
Yep.
I think that if you're a good player that knows you're going to be top 4, top 8 every single year, I would just be avoiding buys come finals.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't give a flying fuck. Because at the end of the day, I think that if you're one of those teams that is struggling to make the 8, what's probably going to decide you making the 8 is just how many times you get lucky versus teams with guns having buys.
I think it's super important for your top 3 picks to, if you can, avoid having one of those players in a team that has a buy in the last 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So, that'll feed into the strategy. But we say it every year: value is value.
Yeah.
So
and
if they fall to you, I mean, you've got to give it a go.
So on the other side of the coin, where you're saying is no, I'm just going to play how I play, and run into 2023 how I do things. Right, there's going to be people that are going to be overthinking this buy situation.
100%.
They're going to go down a fucking rabbit hole.
I feel like I'm looking at one of them. But anyway, proceed.
please. There's a left, mate. Calm up here, don't worry about me, bro. I'll be all right. But the thing is, there's going to be a camp of people, right, that are going to let some of these players slip in the draft because of these buy situations, right? And just what, like Walker said, value is value. You know, regardless of where the buyers fucking sit or whatever the fuck's happening, sometimes you just can't let some of these players go past you in the draft. And that's something to live by. Like, if a player comes up, like we're talking about with Latrell, if he slips pick 6, pick 7, because people are like, oh, he doesn't play around 26, you have to take him. And it's as simple as that.
I still wouldn't.
I tell you
Still
what,
wouldn't.
I really wouldn't.
Where would he have to slip for you?
It's going to be my next question for you guys. But mate, if he's not playing grand final week, he's no good to me.
But
that's always my thinking.
He can be used as a player bet situation as well, like getting
They
towards the
don't
back
play.
end of the season.
If you play
we're
player
a
bets,
betting
in
league,
your
so-
fucking unicorn comp over there. Which is a completely different kettle of fish. In that situation, I get it. But in mine, where
Alpha
my comp
league.
doesn't trade too much,
Big
and
dick league.
how the please, 10 man with 4 players on each team, fucking spare me.
Whatever.
In a situation where there's not many guys that trade, which I think is most serious comps.
Yeah.
How the fuck are you going to convince someone? How do you give you this really good player who doesn't play the 1 week that fucking matters?
Yeah, you've got to rely on them. You can't have an informed person.
Yeah.
And if you're playing for money, which a lot of the leagues are,
I guess you target the blokes that are struggling to make the finals in the first place.
Yeah. I think it's a lot to risk.
It's hard. It's hard.
it's a huge risk to make.
Yes.
And like I said before, the top 2 picks, I don't think I would be wanting to throw away on that for what upside you get.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones where, you know, as much as Latrell's an absolute gun, and I have no doubt whatsoever he's going to be a gun this year, if something happens that he gets injured, suspended, whatever it might be, you're fucked.
Yeah,
That is your
And
season down the drain.
And it is a lot different in our league because Latrell could win me 2 players.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
No, yeah.
very different. Yeah. Do you want to quickly explain what you're talking about there? Like, if you have a look at the last 3 seasons, Latrell hasn't played more than 17 games in any of those 3 seasons.
By suspension or injury.
Yep.
So you've got to take that into account.
In a
as well.
27-round comp, that's only 2/3 of a comp he's played at max in the last 3
Well,
years.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd only be playing 24 games.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so
even more so.
even
It's
still,
even more
like
than
you need your top tier players to be playing the whole season. Unless it's turbo, you can play half the season and you can still win your comp.
I'll tell you what, though, if you want to buy a beer with Matty and get him to sit you down and tell you how good Latrell's going to be with a full pre-season and everything, you
Is it
might
your
take
shout?
him pick fucking
Is it your
one.
shout, Matty, if I talk about how good Cookie and Latrell is?
I mean, yeah, I've paid for all those beers in that fridge over there. So.
Blood, sweat and tears.
Copy.
That's our currency.
Copy.
It might be a wandering chat though.
So our league, just to explain, so we run, it's wild, it's madness. We play a bet. So just say I'm playing Wooker, and there is certain bets that are written out that
We've
you
got
can use.
mandatory bet rounds. So it's set up for all the years. Certain rounds, every second round will effectively have a bet round.
Yep.
And then it's free for all. If you want to add to that another bet, great. If you want to bet on non-bet rounds, also great.
So for example, round 1, you have to bet player versus player, a guy that you've drafted in the first 5 rounds. So that actually changes how you draft as well. So some guys pick, they actually reach for guys because of who they know they're playing in round 1. It's good matchup.
Oh,
so they can use. You do it every year, bro.
Oh no, I do it every year.
To use them in the bet.
Right.
But in saying that, just say Wooker and I are betting, and it's Latrell versus Teddy, say, or something like that.
That'd be wild.
That would be big. But if I take a player off him, I don't give him my worst player.
Yeah.
Like if I take, just say I took Cleary off him and I had Hines, and I think Cleary's better than Hines, I give him Hines.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're not.
It's a gentleman's agreement that like you're not
that's
absolutely
dangerous.
fucking over people.
It's don't be a cunt rule. Really, that's
Yeah.
what it is. And
I've been trying to put that into our
actually-
league for quite some time, actually. No one wants to listen.
It's actually been adhered to.
yeah,
pretty
it's
well.
been pretty good.
That's good.
Even with a few pricks in our league, it's been adhered to. So
We got these 3 slimy real estate agents in our comp. You can't. fucking-
you know who you are.
No, they know who they are. You can't get anything
Well, we've
past
got a
them.
lawyer in our league, and you can.
Oh my
he's,
God.
he's the worst.
Yeah.
I hate your
he's a lot of
competition.
work, that
It's
guy.
the Wild West of Supercoach. It's proper
And this is
cowboy.
why draft is great.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
Love
mean? Like
draft.
this bullshit that we're talking about right now. If you're playing classic and you've never given draft a go, this is the sort of shit you get into.
I
It's
find
so
it
good.
unbelievable how much effort you two put into your stats and everything when seemingly it's those weeks that decide your fucking comp anyway.
Oh,
Yeah.
But it gets us to the point where it's those weeks that matter.
Yeah.
And we
do it for the people.
do
I know
it
you
for,
do.
We don't do it
good
for
fellas.
us.
We do it for everyone.
We do it
So
for the
it's-
rubbers.
It just it helps us make those decisions.
Fuck the
We're not just like throwing a dart at the dartboard. It's an informed decision that sometimes fucks up, but it puts us in the best stead.
I like that. All right. Now, I thought I'd just quickly, I'm obviously lucky enough to have pick number one, which someone in every competition will.
Yeah.
Is Nathan Cleary the
Clear-
standout
clear-
Uno?
clear.
Consensus.
Clearly.
Yeah, clearly. And like in a comp like mine, I've got pick one, I've got Cleary, which is great, got my captain sorted and whatnot. Means I don't get another pick until pick 28.
Yeah.
So it's a long way to wait. What sort of guys, if you're in my position, what sort of guys are you looking at around that 28 sort of mark? Would you be trying to fill another spine spot? You might be reaching by that point potentially.
Yeah.
Or do you go for a good 2RF?
I would look first at what fullbacks are available.
Yep.
And then after that, 2RF.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
same.
Because if there's nothing there for fullbacks, I guarantee you're going to get a really good 2RF.
Yeah. Both your top tier hookers are gone. 5'8" is a basket case, and the good ones will be gone. You might jag a guy like Cody Walker, but you're not wanting Cody Walker for round 27 or round 26. So, yeah, I think there are going to be guys who will slide as well, or you could even pick up like a KP if he slides up far.
Yeah, Kate, I before the other
Told
day,
you not to mention KP.
fuck up. I was sort of looking at Scotty Drinkwater, hoping you would keep Julie hasn't.
yeah.
So he's one that could be still at fullback.
Yeah.
What a kick in the dick.
Yeah, wasn't
hell.
stoked
If
with
Scotty
that.
Drinkwater is there at fullback when you pick in your second,
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm pretty confident that by that point, KP will have 5'8". I think he becomes really interesting. I was so far off the KP train last year, but I just think with Hastings arriving, he'll do well there. I think he'll collect a lot of points. So one of those two guys, but then on the other side of it, you've got your guy you might get, and Isaiah Papali'i, who might drop down there.
Yeah.
Sort of spoke about in pre-show. There's dangers around there.
Absolutely.
But I think, especially in my comp, which I don't know if we mentioned or not, we both play captains leagues.
100% have to.
So obviously, captain's league, your
Cowards don't play
first guy, 100%. I hope everyone took offence to that too.
It's the truth.
It's your first pick is so important. So having Cleary is massive for me. My second pick, I probably don't need to go for that extreme high ceiling guy.
Yeah, that's true.
I can sort of try and play it
Yep.
a little bit safer. You guys obviously don't know what pick you are at the moment, but I think it's fair to say that there's about the top 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cliff.
Yeah, pretty
Everyone
much.
else?
Yeah, 100%.
So if you're pick 10 in your comp, let's say worst case scenario, what sort of guys are you?
Pick 10. Isn't that a struggle?
You obviously do get back-to-back picks, which I'll be in the same.
Yeah.
I'd be in the same boat at 28, 29. Is it easier if we go through our sort of top 10 first?
Yeah, let's just work our way through
So we've all got Cleary at 1.
Yep.
Clear at 1, yeah.
Number 2, your boy. I know you're very high on Nico.
It's got to be Nico.
Nico, yeah, right.
He's got a way that he could drop back, and that's the concern. And obviously losing fullback, it doesn't help his position.
Do you remember that year we were real big on Hines and everyone told us we were all fucking crazy? and we said take him in the first round?
It seems like it was fairly recent.
Yeah, it was.
Cut
recent.
this out, Matty. No, he did pretty well for you last year. My only worry with Nico is that he's coming off a career year.
Yeah.
It's the only sort of sample size we've seen him at halfback. I'm still confident he's going to do well. I think worst case scenario, he's a 60, 70 point halfback. Absolute worst.
Oh, that is base bottom.
Yeah, like
base bottom.
I think 60 was probably over the top. 70 was
Yeah,
probably
that's
absolute
about
worst case
reasonable.
scenario. But I just worry coming off a career year, the way that the Sharkies finished last season. It could go the other way. They could come back and go, fuck you, we should have been better than that. We explode.
And I think they should have finished better, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I agree with you. But I look over the last...
0-2 in the finals.
If you look over the last, 15 years outside of the Penrith Panthers, the last 3, it's only really been the Melbourne Storm and the Roosters that have been able to consistently stay top 4. It's not easy to do.
Yep.
At the end of every season, after a team does it, it feels like it is, but it's not in reality.
Yep.
So
And like you said, it's going to be harder this year.
Going to be heaps fucking harder.
Yep.
They're not going to have that good run that they had last year, which I think is something you spoke about pre-show, Walk, about his scores there.
Yeah, so look, I feel like it is a bit of a gamble, especially throwing out your second pick on him.
Yep.
But if I've got the second pick, I will be going
Goal
Hines
kicking
or-
halfback.
It's a shallow position.
You
and
don't
it's-
really have
you're
to
not
say
gonna-
much more.
It's a shallow position, and you're getting a top tier elite player. It ticks too many boxes.
I think it's funny. I look at all these names: Cleary, Hines, Turbo, Pappy, Munster, Latrell, Teddy. I could honestly give you a reason for all of them why I'm worried.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Cleary without Appy, Hines
Yep.
coming off a career year.
Where would you take
Turbo's Turbo.
Where would you take Turbo?
Turbo's already had his twinges in his hamstring, and
3 days ago, before the injury, I would have taken Turbo at 2 still.
Same.
No, exactly.
Same.
Oh, so a few days ago, you would have taken him before Hines? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, before his
I would.
injury. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
He's a league winner.
He's interplanetary. Like I would almost say, if he didn't have the injury issue, almost ahead of Cleary.
But in saying that, he's going to be back during the preseason.
But he's potentially going to have a bit of a niggling injury through the season. Like it's not going to be 100, but you wouldn't have 100% confidence that he.
Did you have 100% confidence 3 days ago?
I did though.
Where would you
because
take him?
His injury
Of Turbo?
His injury was his shoulder. It wasn't even related. He hadn't had a hamstring injury for about over 12 months.
3 days ago, or now,
Yeah.
you obviously had Pappy after Hines.
Yep.
Yep.
Is Pappy fourth? So you had...
I do want to confirm with Brian about Pappy.
Yeah, Pappy worries me.
Yeah, just with the patella, like
If Brian
what
says,
sort of
nah,
issues
he's
is that?
good, then sweet. But I have no idea about that injury. I've got no idea how guys come back from it.
That's a lot of pressure on the knee with the type
yeah.
of game that he's got.
I'll tell you, the one thing that I saw the other day, which this is a classic, we take SuperCoach too seriously and we look too far into it. He signed up to play in like a charity cricket match or something in the preseason. I just think if his knee was fucked,
He wouldn't be doing
he's
it.
not signing up for that 2 months out.
Especially
No,
when
that's true.
you could potentially just get caught one right on the kneecap.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. A fucking
But fuck,
2 kilo
what-
brick coming at you at
but
100.
What an injury though.
Yeah.
Like to have a shattered patella. That's just
If he's sweet though, yeah,
Yeah, he's incredible. Yeah.
he's up there. Like,
So you had Cleary, Turbo, Hines, Pappy before the Turbo injury.
Yeah.
Now you've
Yep.
switched. Have you got Pappy or Turbo? Which one have you got? Or is that a talk to physio? And
it's
then,
a talk to physio for
and
us.
look, to be honest, I don't know what to do with Turbo.
yeah.
I really don't know. I don't know where to draft him. I don't know whether I let him slide and he be someone else's problem, or if I take he is.
We've got the same discussion as we were talking about with Latrell.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
he hasn't played over 20 games.
I feel like we had
for
this
a while.
conversation 2 years ago with
No, we did,
Turbo,
we did.
where it was like he's the number one gamble in SuperCoach Draft. It's like you take him, and if it works out, you will win your league.
You win or you die trying.
100%. And so it's like, is the gamble worth the upside that he presents, which is fucking, like you said.
He could potentially average over 110.
Yeah.
I was talking to my
Like,
mate
in
yesterday,
actual
last week actually, about this is before the Turbo injury. He's got pick number 2. Well, he's got choice number 2, so he can pick it 2, 3, wherever he wants.
Yep.
He knows I'm going to take 1 at Cleary.
Yep.
And he was sort of saying to me, like, he liked Hines like you guys.
Yeah.
And he was sort of saying, fuck, maybe I take pick 3 and I get Hines there because someone will go Turbo. All of a sudden, now that Turbo's got this injury,
Yeah.
you might get Turbo at 4 or 5 in your comp.
Yeah.
I think that's super value, especially if he's getting his second pick at that 3 or 4 picks earlier.
He could slide.
That
He
can
could
make a
slide
big
into the round 2 in some leagues.
I don't think so.
I swear to God, he
name
will.
alone.
No, not in
name
pro
alone.
leagues. Not in leagues that know what they're doing.
Because people are freaked. People are going, no, he's done.
So tell me if you're pick 7 off that cliff, you're not then looking at Turbo.
Oh, well, we are because we
I
know
would in a
we know what we're
heartbeat,
doing.
Yeah.
In a
But
heartbeat.
like, sure.
He's still a top 5.
Yeah.
Regardless of the injury.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
He's got so much time to get that right, do the proper rehab, and we know that he can rehab his hammies good now, and he knows the process and all that. So I don't think that it's going to be as much for.
But if you're keen on Turbo and your WhatsApp is humming along nicely already in the preseason, I would start pumping out the content on Turbo about how many games he's played every season for the last 4
sell
seasons.
the story to make people a bit unsure.
Post all the hamstring injuries, post everything, just start getting some doubt.
We should start a business selling like fake
Fake news.
uploads of us
Yeah,
hosing
mate,
down
huge.
certain players.
Huge.
Wouldn't be a bad little industry. Okay, so those are our 4.
Yep.
5, Munster, Latrell, Teddy. I mentioned before that I've got problems with all these guys. Munster.
Yeah.
Saw him with a beer in his hand the other day. That worries me.
Yeah.
After last season.
Yeah. Latrell, it all depends on when your grand final is.
Yeah. I mean, if your grand finals
27?
It's still a problem for me. But
Yeah. But
if your grand finals round 26, it's a
Yeah.
serious problem.
if your grand final's 27, you take Latrell next, I think.
I don't think the positions for any of the top 10 are 100% solid.
Yeah, it's a bit wild.
I agree with you.
Even Cleary, I'm not 100%.
Yeah, you don't know with the effect that Appy's
Because
going to
I think Appy is underrated for the impact that he has on that Panthers squad.
Yep.
So
I think with the Appy one, it's going to go one way or another.
Yeah.
I think if it goes the bad way, I think it could cost Cleary 5 to 10 points, maybe.
Yeah.
I still think he'll be good.
I think with Appy leaving, I think that probably helps Dylan Walker because it might unlock his attacking output. Like I think
Dylan Edwards?
Edwards.
that's what I said. Dylan Edwards.
Dylan Walker, you said.
Oh, did I? Yep. Dylan Edwards. No, Dylan Walker's not going to do fuck all.
Fuck have you brought in, honestly?
Oh, I know.
How many beers you had, bro?
Yeah, that's the problem. No, I think Dylan Edwards could be a real smoky for a real top tier.
I'm hoping it forces Cleary to just take full control and just send him to another straight.
If he can get good service out of dummy half, that's all he needs.
Yeah.
Just put the ball out here, fucking let the rest go.
And this is where I also wonder, losing Kiko on that edge.
Yeah.
I wonder if the right becomes the strike.
Well,
Could be.
on the stats, especially with try scoring, and Random Stats Guy and I were talking about this throughout the year, like it was very left dominant to start the year.
Yeah.
And then when Cleary really started hitting his straps, all of a sudden you saw all of it start switching out to the right.
shift.
Yeah, there was. 100% there was.
It wasn't just the Panthers though. It was like pretty much the whole league were really left dominant in attack. And then second half of the season, it kind of shifted back to the right.
The other thing I love too is that during that World Cup, Cleary played a lot down the left.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that
Mate,
they
if
just
he
give
plays
him a
both
license.
sides of the ruck,
Yeah.
stop.
That would be dangerous.
Yeah.
That would be very
And
dangerous.
I think there's a legitimate chance that he might without Appy. I really do think there's a chance that he might play both sides. So
I think
he's also a
Luai's
dangerous
big
ball
stay
runner.
away.
Like
he loves a run too.
you cannot underestimate how many tries he'll get this season.
Yeah.
Luai without kick out. Big stay away from me.
Yeah, but I'll tell you who I love, Isaac Tungo.
Yeah.
I love him not having to run that same fucking line every time
Yep.
and getting pounded into the earth.
Nice decoy.
Early
nice
ball.
Nice decoy. Fucking
Never get any
Get the ball.
points. There's a
Get the
try
ball.
scored every time, but they never get any points for it. Whereas now you're going to have Luke Garner, who's going to be more of an orthodox sort of back rower. I just think Isaac's going to be in for a...
Cleary on the
season.
left side of the ruck to Tango. Is that what you think? Oh, stop it.
Stop it.
Did this desk just lift up?
wouldn't have moved much, but it would have moved.
Matty, we need some tissues.
James Tedesco. I think he's the player before the cliff hits. That'd be fair. Like him, Latrell, Munster
Yep.
around that mark.
Yep.
We sort of spoke pre-show. My worry with Teddy, and I'm glad it's something I not have to worry about, is that Manu is playing this roaming role. I just worry that Manu takes too many points off Teddy. Teddy's still going to be a great player, don't get me wrong. But I just worry that he might have to share that ceiling a little bit. I think you've got a bit of a different viewpoint on it.
Yeah, look, I do think that he'll be sharing a little bit of those points with Manu because I think Manu is going to have that roaming role, like you were saying. But I think the Roosters as a whole outfit, I think they're going to be doing it across the whole season, and I think he's going to be in attacking form throughout the whole season. Whereas he dipped in and out through parts of the year, and same with the Roosters as a whole. So I think Roosters are a real shot for premiership, but I also think that Teddy is going to be a big part of it. I mean, Manu is heavily wasted as a centre. We've seen what he can do, especially in the World Cup. Like, they did say he was going to have a roaming licence last season. We saw a little bit of it through parts. Where their buys sit, Manu isn't really going to get too much of a crack at the fullback spot. Because
Can you explain that? So their buys
their buys will fall at the same time as the Origin. So the Roosters won't be playing, but Teddy will be playing Origin. Yep. So in previous seasons gone by,
big.
Manu would have filled in at fullback or filled in at 5'8", got an absolute buttload of points, but it's just not going to happen again. Well, not happen as much.
Yeah.
But I mean, Teddy could go down. But he's been pretty resilient since he's had his knee issues back at the Tigers.
And for all you know, during that Origin period, they might give the young fella a shot there too.
Yeah.
Game here or there. So,
Yeah.
or they might split minutes or whatever. Like
And he's the next big thing.
Yeah.
I think where we've got him as well, around that 5-6 pick, I think that's also taking into consideration those worries.
Yeah.
Because usually Teddy's sitting up around that 2-3
Teddy's a top 3
pick.
in
we've-
seasons gone by. He's a top 3.
Exactly. And we've moved him now to say 5. I think that's where he sits, regardless of how Manu fits into the equation.
If Manu didn't exist, though, I still couldn't possibly take Teddy 1 or 2.
No.
Still,
We're
it'd
not
be
saying
at
that.
best
We're not saying
3.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not as high on Teddy as others. But I still think you can win a comp with Teddy.
Like Teddy was disappointing last season, but he still averaged nearly 80.
Yeah.
So, and this was a disappointing year for output. And really, all he needs is like to string together the season. And with the Roosters playing better, I think they're a real go.
Once you drop down the cliff, I think the guy sitting at the bottom of the cliff is Harry Grant.
Yeah.
Maybe he's halfway up the cliff.
It's a whopper of a cliff, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Grant's probably the midway guy. He fills a really tough position to fill, which lifts him up a little bit. Yeah. As you said before, his ceiling is 100.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have that.
Well, he's got a
150 finish you on Thursday night score in him.
He's got a floor of like 70 though, so it's you know what you're going to get from him. We've got other players that like Isaiah Papali'i. He had an average last season of 80. I mean, is he one that you're considering shifting clubs, different structure? Eels to Tigers, it's a bit of a step down in attack, I mean.
And I mean, he's another guy, similar to a few guys in these top 7. Some of them aren't, Hines, probably Pappy. They won't play Origin.
Yep.
Whereas this guy, he will disappear for 6 weeks, smack in the middle of the season. At least he won't play 80 minutes in the Origin arena. Harry Grant's a very interesting one. I'm not convinced you can win a comp with. You can be relevant.
Yep.
He'll get you to the finals. I don't think he'll win you a final.
Yeah, and I think last year, when you think about Turbo, Pappy, Cleary, all these guys are out for SuperCoach finals. I think it opened it up a little bit more to winning it with someone else in your comp.
Yeah.
If they're all fit, I think a top 5 pick should win 85% of comps.
Yeah. Mad Dog versus Grant.
Mad Dog.
Ceiling. I think the ceiling, exactly. Yep. So you take Munster because he has that ability to go 120, 130.
Munster's floor, even though like he might not be fully relevant in some of the games, he'll still score you 60. Like he still has like those pump out runs where he just goes on a tear.
I hear everyone always say, "I'll pick Munster because he's exciting to watch." I find him frustrating as all fuck to watch from a SuperCoach point of view because he should be scoring 200 a week.
Yeah,
he should be.
He sits back and lets the game happen, which like it's good for the Storm, but it's not good for an owner.
It hurts for SuperCoach. It hurts. He's another one that I'm glad I don't have to consider. If I was sitting there making up my mind between Munster and Grant, I would go Munster, but I wouldn't be confident on it.
Yep.
At all.
He would probably be my next pick after Teddy.
At like 6-7 around that mark.
Yeah, I think that's where he belongs.
I think he'd be around that sort of area.
And he's pretty much been there the last 3 years, to be honest, around that sort of...
I think he'll always be there.
We were huge on him last season.
Yeah.
We thought, he's off the drink. It's
finally
going to be this year where like he'll do everything that we were expecting him to do.
It was good. He averaged 81.
He was close.
Yeah.
He was close. But yeah.
81, did he?
81, yeah. So... Not
a bit
bad.
higher than you remember. That was the same. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Pappy missing for a lot of the year, though.
He had to step up.
Step ups a little bit. Play a bit of fullback. And
you got to ride the wave a little bit with him as well because he does have down games, but then he has those fucking games.
I don't think he'll go 81 again, personally, with everyone back.
I think he'll probably step back to maybe 75, maybe 70 even.
Yeah.
But you'll still get some good games out of him. But he, like you mentioned, frustrating as an owner.
And he plays 5'8". He's a 5'8". Like it's such a scary position. Like if you lock down Mad Dog Munster as your 5'8", fuck, that's a lot of stress that you don't have to worry about later on in your draft.
Set and forget.
The other thing that worries me about Melbourne is just their forward pack.
Yeah,
I'm just
It's light on.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if they're going to be as dominant as what they usually. I mean, they weren't as dominant as what they were last year.
It's not even just the front row forwards. It's also
everything.
It's
the back row.
You just.
You're trusting, and Craig Bellamy's done it time and time again. You're trusting him to get the best out of Tarek Sims and Eli Katoa from New Zealand. So
does that mean they lean on Munster more because we know that he goes through the stratosphere? If a team just goes help,
but I don't think he's a 26-week guy.
No, that's true.
My worry.
That's true.
He'll go on a tear.
If you put him in a final series and go help, I'm drowning.
Yeah,
okay.
He's gonna.
I'll fuck everything inside.
Yeah.
But over 26 weeks, I don't know, especially when he goes and plays Origin for 7 odd weeks. Where does Jerome Hughes go? I know he's not a top 10 sort of guy, but he's sort of the forgotten guy.
I think he's top 20.
Oh, 100%.
I think he falls,
100%.
He falls like on the turn for our league, so 12, 13.
I think so, yeah.
I think he's around that sort of value.
Round 1 in your league.
Yeah, I'm trying to think
end of
if
round
he
1.
normally is. Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, now that you take Moses and Dill Brown out of the equation in our comp, Hughesy probably is up there. Where do the Parramatta boys go? And who's the first to go out of Moses, Gutho, Dill Brown in your comp?
For me, it would probably be Moses because he's kicking, but I don't think the Dill Bags will back up what he did last season.
I think I'll go Dill.
Is that the punt?
I'm gonna back him. Coming off his international start, he's gonna have his his dick swinging. He's gonna have some confidence. He's gonna come back in this side. Yeah, I like Dylan to go again.
74 for last season. I drafted him last season on the punt that I knew what he could do, and he delivered in spades. It was awesome. I just don't know. With the losses that they've had and the change in team structure, I just don't know.
That's my worry. Josh Hodgson coming in.
Josh Hodgson coming in. He's obviously attacking minded and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Marnie's a delivery guy.
Marnie's delivery, good
Get
service.
the guns ball.
Done.
Yep.
Hodgson in like the nicest way possible can be a selfish hooker because he's so talented.
He does overplay his hand at times, which leaves the halves with their dicks in the hand.
It leaves Gutho as well for me.
Yeah.
I'm not going near him because they're
Gutho's
27, but I couldn't do it anyway.
But to your question, out of those three, if I was going to pick one first, I'd go Dylan.
Yeah.
Out of those three.
Like, Gutherson isn't in my stratosphere for like top tier fullbacks just because he does have those 30-point games in him, and that scares me for a top tier player.
I don't think you can win a comp with Gutho in a good comp anyway.
Also with Moses and Dill Brown playing so well and Lane coming through as well, like it's pretty hard for Gutho to see himself as that, that top tier attacking player in that side with all these other fucking weapons. Do you know what I mean? I feel like some games you look at him, you go, is he worried? Is he just getting in the way? Like he just wants to do his job.
Delicate balancing act.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's my worry with them, that Josh Hodgson could be the straw that broke.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just talking about this top 10. Last year it was so definitive. Yeah. You talk about top 10, you go, this is what's going to come. Bang, 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 bang. This year, you took 5, and even the 5, like you could swap them around, but after 5,
well, I mean, the 5's tough.
I think a really good punt.
There hasn't been, there's been one injury out of them.
Yeah.
There's going to be more. There's going to be more fucked up shit to happen.
So, absolutely. Which is good for draft. I mean, because people are going to have to take punts, people are going to have to take gambles, which means there's going to be value later on in the draft, and it's going to be, do your research, and you just back your gut.
Yeah. Where do you guys see DCE?
Not an issue for me. Don't give a fuck.
No, I know. Yeah. Halfback sorted.
It all depends on Turbo.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you back Turbo, you back DCE, and if you back Turbo is a top 3 pick, and if you do that, then you got to take DCE around that pick 15.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, and stats from last season, he's down at 24.
Yep.
So,
Without Turbo.
Turbo.
And that's what you're going to get without Turbo.
Yeah.
That's amazing how much falls on his back.
Everything. He is Manly.
Yeah.
I can't put it any way else. Like, he is Manly.
Now, boys, we've only got a couple of minutes left. So just our key points from today, draft day. Leave front row forwards to the end.
Yep.
Mate,
And hooker.
Don't even consider.
Front row forwards, hooker.
Yep.
Leave them to the end.
Low priority.
Don't get stuck into the vortex of going after these guys. What other tips would you be giving?
Really pump out your pre-draft lists.
Yep.
Go through, rank out each of your positions, and then rank them, and then feed it back into the thing. Have a look at the teams that have the buys around where your final is. Really have a think about it, because when you get into your draft, you want to make sure that you know that, oh, fuck, I'm not picking up all these Eagles players. My final's in round 27. Like, have it in your head and keep tracking it through. Like,
especially if you back yourself. If you're a guy like us, we back ourselves to make the finals every year, right? If you're one of those guys, then you should be planning for your finals in your draft. Simple as that.
I think one tip I'd give as well, and we do it in my comp anyway. So in my competition on draft day, we're all in the same room. We've got butcher's paper around the wall with everyone's team. And after you draft someone, you go and write up where you've got.
Oh, yeah.
So the beauty of it is, like, if I was pick 1, 2, 3, I know that I'm going to have 2 picks. But I know, for example, if you've both already got a halfback, I can leave a halfback for now. I know it's going to be there. So it's something that I would say to people that, and it might take a little bit more extra effort, maybe have a piece of paper next to you and just write down the people that are either side of you. Just write down what their team looks like and where their gaps are, because then you can sort of predict which direction they're going to go. And as I said, it might mean that I can wait. You know, obviously it's a bad example when I'm 1, but if I was 6 and there was 5 and 7 and 8, you can sort of pick and choose where you leave your halfbacks, your hookers, whatever it might be. It also means that you can fuck the guy next to you as well.
Yeah, I love that play.
Yeah,
I love that play,
which is huge.
Last 2 years we've gone back to back.
Yeah,
picks,
either side.
so we've
that's pretty much
to fuck each other.
Yeah, I have the blinkers on. I'm just like, what would Walker pick? Yep, I'm picking that. I ain't fucked.
Yeah, bastard.
Anything else to add before we hit the frog and toad, boys?
That's about it. It's pretty early to be talking about draft, which I love, but things are going to change. But never too early to start talking draft, baby.
Fingers crossed we get some proper duels this season.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Don't hold your breath. Boys, the weekly rubdown, where can people find you? Platforms, podcast, hit us.
Just, wherever you got your social media, weekly rubdown is going to be. Wherever you find your podcast as well.
So Instagram, Twitter, we're
TikTok,
on Discord.
Everything. Go check us out. It's going to be a huge preseason for the rubdown, as it always is. We'll kick off probably the first week of January. We'll start going through positions, strength of schedule, buy. We'll have a whole episode on buys.
Player movements, all sorts of stuff.
We'll have the guru on to talk about boom, bust values. It's going to be a huge preseason. We'll be kicking it off, baby.
Ready to
the OnlyFans is pretty average. Some cold days up there from what I've gathered, but
it's just Walker. It's just Walker at the moment. So
I'll tell you what, one man, one cup has not been getting the viewership I was hoping.
On that note, Merry Christmas, guys. Have a cracker. Make sure you go follow the weekly rubdown on all your platforms and podcasts. The best in the SuperCoach Draft game. Have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you soon.
Merry Christmas.